I still remember the exact moment I met Natalie. It was the first day of freshman year at Georgia State University. I had just moved into my tiny dorm room, room 312, Kell Hall, and I was already second-guessing every decision that had brought me there. I was standing in line at the campus bookstore, clutching a too-expensive psychology textbook, when a girl behind me tapped my shoulder and said, "You have got to be kidding me with this line." Her voice was laced with sarcasm, but her smile was warm. That girl was Natalie. From that day on, we were inseparable. She was everything I wasn't: confident, loud, impulsive, and always the life of the party. I was more reserved, more careful. But we balanced each other. While she dragged me to parties I never thought I'd enjoy, I helped her study the night before every major exam. She called me her ground wire, and I called her my wild card. By sophomore year, we were sharing a 2-bedroom apartment off Ponce de Leon Avenue. We decorated it together. Her side was chaos and color, mine was clean lines and calming tones. But somehow it worked, just like we did. Every bad date, every failed midterm, every phone call home that ended in tears, we went through it all side by side. She wasn't just my best friend. She was like a sister to me. There was this one night I'll never forget. It was during winter break, most students had gone home, but we stayed back for part-time jobs. That night, the heat broke down in our apartment and it was freezing. We bundled up in 3 layers each, made hot chocolate from packets we stole from the student center, and watched The Holiday on my laptop, huddled under one giant blanket. Natalie looked at me halfway through and said, "You know, I think we're gonna be in each other's weddings one day." I smiled and said, "Obviously." And I meant it. If someone had told me then that Natalie would be the one to tear my entire life apart, I would have laughed in their face. Because in my mind, she wasn't just trustworthy, she was untouchable. But the truth is, betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people you swore would never hurt you. I met Ethan during the fall of our junior year. Natalie and I had gone to a rooftop party at a mutual friend's apartment in Midtown Atlanta. I remember the view was incredible: twinkling city lights, the hum of music pulsing through the floor, and the smell of cheap beer mixed with the cinnamon from someone's vape. I was standing awkwardly near the railing, half listening to a guy try to explain cryptocurrency, when Ethan walked over and said, "You look like you need saving." I laughed, partly from relief, partly because it was such a cheesy line, and from that moment, I couldn't look away. He was calm. That's the word that comes to mind. While everyone else was trying to be the loudest, most interesting person in the room, Ethan was different. He asked questions. He actually listened. He told me he was majoring in architecture, showed me pictures of his sketches on his phone, and said his dream was to design spaces that felt like home. I remember thinking, I want to be someone's home. Over the next few weeks, we started seeing more of each other, at first casually, then more seriously. He'd pick me up after my library shifts, bring me my favorite blueberry muffins from Highland Bakery, and leave little sticky notes in my textbooks with dumb jokes or "you've got this" messages. It wasn't fireworks and chaos, it was something better. It was safe. Steady. Real. Natalie was thrilled for me, at least, that's what I thought. She loved teasing me about how soft I'd become. "You're practically glowing," she'd say, wagging her eyebrows every time I smiled at my phone. I didn't think much of it. I mean, she'd had a few flings here and there, but nothing serious. She once told me she didn't really believe in forever, that people come and go, and it's best not to hold on too tight. But with Ethan, I couldn't help it. I wanted forever. And for a while, it felt like that's exactly where we were headed. By the time we graduated, Ethan and I had been together for over 2 years. We moved into a condo in Decatur, something small, but ours. I got a job at a local nonprofit as a data analyst, and he started working at a boutique design firm downtown. We were building a life, one Target run, one Friday night takeout, one shared toothbrush holder at a time. And Natalie? She was still in the picture. Always. She'd come over for wine nights and movie marathons, still called me her ride or die, still laughed like we were those same two broke college girls sneaking into frat parties. She even helped Ethan pick out the ring when he proposed. Yeah. That ring. It happened on our 4-year anniversary. He took me back to the rooftop where we first met. Lights, candles, soft music, the whole cliché. And I loved it. I said yes, through tears and laughter, and when we came home, Natalie popped a bottle of champagne and hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs might crack. Looking back, I wonder now. Was that hug guilt? Or was she just rehearsing for the lie she'd help me live? Because while I was falling deeper in love with him, they were already falling into something else entirely. It's funny how clear things look in hindsight. Back then, I thought I was just being paranoid. Or maybe overly sensitive. But now, looking back, I see it so clearly. The signs were there, I just didn't want to see them. The first red flag happened about 6 months before the wedding. Natalie had just gone through a bad breakup, some guy named Marcus who ghosted her after 2 months of dating, and she was crashing at our place a lot. Which, honestly, I didn't mind. Ethan and I had a guest room, and Natalie was still my best friend. I figured she just needed comfort, and we were her safe space. But then things started to get weird. It was little things at first. One night, I walked into the kitchen and found the two of them laughing, like, really laughing, over some inside joke I wasn't part of. When I asked what was so funny, they both just shrugged it off. You had to be there, Natalie said with a smirk. I remember feeling this tightness in my chest. I told myself I was imagining it. That they were just being friendly. She was like a sister to me, after all. And Ethan? Ethan was the man I was going to marry. Still, more things started piling up. There was the time I came home from work early and found them watching Euphoria on the couch, just the two of them, under a blanket. Natalie jumped up the moment I walked in and said, "Oh. You're home early," like I'd crashed some private moment. I asked why they didn't wait for me. We'd all agreed to binge that show together, and Ethan just muttered something about me being too busy lately. Then there were the text messages. Once, I borrowed Ethan's phone to order Thai food, mine had died, and I saw a message from Natalie pop up, "Ugh, don't tempt me," face with tears of joy. I didn't open the thread. I told myself it was probably about food, or some stupid meme, or, God, I don't know. I didn't want to be the jealous fiancé. I didn't want to be that girl. So I said nothing. I did nothing. I even defended them when my cousin Jenna made a comment one night at a family dinner. She pulled me aside and said, "Is it just me, or does your best friend seem a little too close to your fiancé?" I laughed it off, called her dramatic. But deep down, I had wondered the same thing. I just couldn't admit it, not even to myself. Because doing that would mean facing the possibility that everything I believed in, my relationship, my friendship, my future, might be a lie. And I wasn't ready for that. I kept pushing the thoughts away, burying them under wedding planning checklists, venue visits, dress fittings, and Pinterest boards. Natalie was my maid of honor. Ethan was my soulmate. We were all supposed to be happy. But here's the truth about red flags: you can ignore them all you want, but eventually, they'll set your whole life on fire. And for me, that fire started burning the night everything changed. It was a Thursday night. I remember because Ethan had texted that he'd be working late. His firm had a pitch for a new development in Buckhead, and he said he'd probably be home after 11. I didn't think much of it. Late nights had become normal with the wedding just 2 months away and his workload piling up. So I planned a quiet night in, face mask, wine, and some trashy true crime doc in the background. Around 8:30, Natalie called. She said she was going to swing by for a quick vent session and pick up the heels she left at our place after last weekend's bridal shower. Her voice sounded normal, cheery, even. I told her I was in sweatpants and half asleep, but she said, "You won't even have to get off the couch." 20 minutes later, she hadn't shown up. I texted. No response. then, about 30 minutes after that, something strange happened. I got a notification on my phone from our building's security app. Someone had used our guest code to access the garage entrance. At first, I assumed it was Natalie. But when I checked the live camera feed, that's when I saw it. Natalie. Walking into the building. With Ethan. They didn't look like they'd just bumped into each other. He had his hand on the small of her back, casual, familiar. She was laughing. Her head tilted in that way she always did when she was flirting. And the worst part? They didn't come upstairs. I sat there frozen, watching the screen as they turned left, toward the back stairwell that led to the storage units and maintenance hallways. A place no one ever really goes. I watched them disappear around the corner, and I knew. My heart started pounding. I told myself I was being insane. That I needed to breathe. That maybe there was a logical explanation. But something inside me, something deeper than doubt, knew I was about to find out the truth. I grabbed my keys and crept down the back stairwell. I didn't even bother putting on shoes. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. I took the steps one by one, slow and quiet, until I reached the hallway near the storage rooms. And that's when I heard them. I wish I could say I opened the door and caught them red-handed. That I stormed in and screamed. But I didn't have to. I heard her giggle. I heard his voice, low and muffled, say something like, "We shouldn't be doing this here," followed by the sound of movement, and then silence. I turned around and walked back up the stairs like a ghost. My ears were ringing. My whole body felt numb. The kind of numb you get after a car crash, where everything's moving in slow motion, and your brain is trying to catch up with reality. I didn't confront them that night. Instead, I sat on our couch in the dark, phone in my hand, staring at the screen like it might tell me what to do next. When Ethan finally came upstairs around midnight, he acted like nothing had happened. Kissed me on the forehead. Said, "You're still up," like he hadn't just shattered me. Natalie texted the next morning, "Sorry I didn't come by. Got caught up." Rain check? I didn't reply. Because I knew if I said anything in that moment, it wouldn't just be a fight. It would be the end of everything. So I waited. I pretended. I smiled through the cracks. Because I needed time to figure out exactly how I was going to make them both pay. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't just break your heart. It rewires you. After that night, I stopped being the woman who cried herself to sleep over her fiancé. I stopped being the best friend who gave second chances. I became someone else. Someone who smiled, nodded, and planned. Because if they thought I was just going to walk away and let them carry on like nothing happened, they didn't know me at all. I didn't confront them. Not immediately. That would have been too easy. Instead, I got strategic. Step 1 was gathering proof. I started small, checking Ethan's texts when he was asleep. He had no password on his phone, probably because he thought I'd never look. That was his first mistake. I forwarded everything to a secret email address I created. Messages from Natalie with hearts, inside jokes, late-night Miss US voice notes. Calendar invites to meetups he claimed were work events. Disgusting, really. But necessary. Then, I went deeper. I bought a small voice-activated recorder off Amazon and hid it in the guest room, where Natalie always stayed. I captured a conversation the next time she visited. She thought I was at yoga. I wasn't. I sat in the parking lot down the street, listening live through a connected app as she made herself a drink and FaceTimed him from our kitchen. She called him babe. I called that evidence. Step 2, play dumb. I continued planning the wedding. Smiling at dress fittings. Sending out save the dates. I even let Natalie help pick the final catering menu. I wanted her invested. I wanted them both lulled into a false sense of security, thinking they'd gotten away with it. Thinking I was still clueless, still blind. But behind the scenes? I was moving the chess pieces. I scheduled a lunch with Ethan's boss under the pretense of surprising him with a groomsman thank you gift. I made sure to casually mention how lucky Ethan was to have such a flexible work schedule and how grateful I was that his personal life didn't interfere with big deadlines. The man's face said everything. Within a week, Ethan was under quiet review for some shady overtime reports. Then, I contacted Natalie's latest situationship, some guy named Caleb. I'd met him twice. He was sweet, a bit naive, and very into her. I reached out anonymously and sent him screenshots of her messages to Ethan. I never heard back, but a few days later, Natalie called me crying because men are trash. I poured her a glass of wine and nodded sympathetically. Step 3, the reveal. I didn't want a fight. I didn't want yelling. I wanted silence. Shock. I wanted to take everything from them in one clean, merciless stroke. So I waited until my bridal shower. It was held at a little winery just outside Atlanta, beautiful rustic setting, all white linens and string lights. Everyone was there. My mom, my cousins, friends from college, even Ethan's sister. And of course, Natalie. Front and center. Beaming. Acting like she hadn't been sleeping with my fiancé behind my back for God knows how long. I waited until after the champagne toast. Then I stood up, thanked everyone for coming, and said I had one more surprise. I clicked the remote to the projector we were using for the photo slideshow. And instead of baby pictures and engagement photos, I played a short, carefully edited compilation. Screenshots. Messages. The audio clip. Even a blurry still from the garage camera feed. It lasted maybe 90 seconds. Dead silence the entire time. When it ended, I looked directly at Natalie, then Ethan. And I said, "You're both uninvited from the wedding." Then I walked out. Did I cry? No. Did I feel better? Not yet. But I had more in store. Because hurting me was one thing. Underestimating me? That was their biggest mistake. I thought the hardest part would be the reveal. But the real satisfaction came in the after. Because once the truth was out, everything started unraveling, and not for me. Let's start with Ethan. 2 days after the bridal shower bombshell, he showed up at my apartment, our apartment, begging me to talk. His face was pale, dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept. I let him speak, said nothing while he stumbled through excuses, half apologies, and that classic line, "It didn't mean anything." I just watched him. When he was done, I handed him a manila envelope. Inside, a printed copy of the evidence, a copy of the lease termination I'd already filed, and a polite note. "Since you always wanted to feel at home, I figured you could start by finding a new one." He moved out by the end of the week. Word got around quickly, Atlanta isn't as big as it feels, and it didn't take long before people at his firm found out why he was under investigation. The overtime discrepancies I hinted at to his boss? Yeah, they were real. He'd been logging hours he never worked. Probably to spend time with Natalie while pretending to stay late. HR didn't take it lightly. He wasn't just put on probation, he was fired. Quietly. Discreetly. But definitely gone. Last I heard, he was freelancing, living with a college friend in a barely furnished apartment, and trying to land contract gigs on LinkedIn. His professional image? Tarnished. His personal life? Even worse. Now, Natalie. Oh, Natalie. She disappeared from the group chat immediately after the shower. Left without a word. Ghosted everyone but one or two of our mutual friends, who told me she was humiliated and couldn't believe I'd do that to her in public. To her. The irony almost made me laugh. She tried spinning the story, of course. Said it wasn't serious, that Ethan had come on to her, that I'd overreacted. But the problem with telling lies in a circle of shared friends is the truth always echoes louder. Screenshots were shared. Voices were heard. And Natalie? She was left without a leg to stand on. Her reputation in our circle crumbled. The women she used to gossip with now kept their distance. A few even blocked her. Caleb, the guy she was stringing along while sneaking around with Ethan, exposed her texts online. It wasn't viral or anything, but enough to burn bridges. She lost friends, invitations, opportunities. The cherry on top? She'd just started a new job at a local PR firm. I didn't doubt her, didn't need to. But someone else did. Her manager apparently found the screenshots and audio in a group chat she didn't know had been leaked. She wasn't fired. But her role changed. She's no longer on client-facing work. Essentially sidelined. As for me? I moved out of the condo and into a bright, airy apartment near the Beltline. I changed my number. Deleted the wedding Pinterest boards. Started therapy. And I began focusing on me. Not the version of me who was Ethan's fiancé or Natalie's sidekick, but the one who'd forgotten she could stand on her own. The fallout wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic. It was quiet. Cold. Precise. Just the way I wanted it. They burned me. But I made sure they both walked through the fire. People always talk about betrayal like it's a storm, loud, sudden, destructive. But what they don't tell you is what comes after. The silence. The slow, aching emptiness of rebuilding yourself from the pieces someone else smashed without hesitation. After Ethan and Natalie, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was disoriented. For a while, I couldn't tell what was real and what was just something I wanted to believe was real. I questioned everything, every moment, every memory, every choice that had led me to them. But eventually, I realized something. Their betrayal didn't define me. My response did. I could have spiraled. I could have fought fire with fire, made a public scene, burned bridges, aired every dirty detail. But I didn't. I stayed composed. I stayed strategic. And not because I was cold or emotionless. Quite the opposite. I had finally realized how much power there is in holding your center, in choosing grace, even when others offer you none. And that's what real healing looks like. It's not pretending like it didn't hurt. It did. God, it did. But it's looking in the mirror weeks later, when the tears have dried, when the noise has settled, and seeing yourself more clearly than ever. I learned to enjoy my own company again. I started taking solo walks every morning on the Beltline, coffee in hand, headphones in. I journaled. I traveled, something I hadn't done alone in years. A weekend trip to Asheville. A solo dinner at a rooftop bar in Savannah. I stopped waiting for someone to join me before living the life I wanted. And somewhere along the way, the bitterness started to fade. Not because they deserved forgiveness. But because I deserved peace. Natalie taught me the danger of blind loyalty. Ethan taught me the danger of false promises. But what they both taught me, unintentionally, was how to never abandon myself again. Now, I know my worth isn't up for negotiation. I no longer explain away red flags or stay silent to keep the peace. I no longer shrink myself to make others feel bigger. I've become fiercely protective of my energy, and that's not bitterness. That's growth. To anyone listening who's been betrayed, whether by a partner, a friend, or both, I want you to know something. You are not stupid. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are becoming. And no matter how painful it feels right now, there will come a day when you'll look back and thank the universe for showing you exactly who didn't deserve a seat at your table. Because sometimes, the most painful endings are the ones that finally set you free.